Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week I'm working on the Cyclekart bulkhead. See you in a minute. Right, now in order to resolve the issues of getting in and out of the cart, steering column, steering wheel placement, all that sort of thing, I want to get the scuttle in front of the driver sorted. So in order to do that I need to get the front bulkhead built so I can get that positioned on the chassis, and then we can at least then set the seating position and the rear bulkhead behind the driver. So let's have a look on the bench and see what we've been up to with this. Right, the second day's chopping away. We're getting somewhere with the cockpit scuttle parts now. I've got a top block there that's ready to go in. Two side pieces which will need to be again loose tenoned and attached, same as I did before on the smaller hoop. Those go in about there. And then there will be two uprights which will be effectively the bulkhead at the back of the engine compartment, back of the bonnet. Just gluing the top part of the scuttle up. This is the one that's got all sorts of weird geometry in it, so I don't quite know how it'll all go together, but we've done as we did before with the front bulkhead, just done some loose tenons and rebates, but we'll just hold it together. And then once it's all dried, we can then start and think about cutting it to shape. Okay, so that's cut the rough shape of the outside of the scuttle. I'll do the inside when I've got the rest of it sorted, because it's a relatively simple job on a bandsaw. What I haven't been able to do is cut the right profile on the back for the sloping part here, and that's because I've run out of room on my bandsaw. The throat on my bandsaw is just not big enough. So I've got two options to sort that. I can either set about this with a big Shinto rasp I've got, big file, and start and file that away, or I can wait a day or two and take it to our Menin sheds where I have a bandsaw. I've got access to a bandsaw which is far bigger and will take this easily. So I think I'll do that. It's going to be an awkward cut anyway, because effectively that becomes vertical. So I've either got to tilt the whole thing up at about 19 degrees, I think it is, and push it through the bandsaw, or I turn it upside down and guess, which I really don't want to do. Okay, so that's had a bit of a sand down at the shed. I've now got all the shape that I want into that, in terms of it, the radius and the slope on the back. I've now got the desired slope to go the back towards the seating area from the end of the bonnet. What I also need to do now is get this 5-degree slope on the whole thing going that way, and that is going to be the harder one. I think what I'll do is, if I can drop the table of the sander, it's got the option to drop down. If I can drop that down by 5 degrees, that means I can then start and sand all the way round to this line, and that will just narrow it down slightly to the front, which is where the bonnet will be, which is again prototypical. Just got this slight slope. It's not much at the top, but when you get to here it makes quite a difference by the time you actually get from front to back. So if I put the angle finder I've got on the table to establish what it already is, 0.5 degree, let me just zero that and then undo the side bolts and start to drop the table down by the desired 5 that I need. Takes a little bit of time for it to catch up, so it's easy to do it. That's 5.1 degrees, that'll do for me. Tighten those up nice and tight, and what that means now is anything I put on there will be sanding effectively down towards the front edge, so we can get that angle on it. As I say, it makes very little difference on the top. When you're here, it is probably the best part of 10mm it's got to come off to make it work. Okay, so that's got me as far as I want to be with this, I think, or as far as I can take it at the moment. I've now got the vertical front part where the bonnet comes up to the scuttle is vertical, right angles to the ground. This is sloping at about 19 degrees, which is what I want, and it's now tapering inwards that way by 5 degrees, which again is what I want. So that's all pretty much set, and to some extent now it doesn't matter how thick my body material is, as long as I've got the body material. Because I've got this 5 degree taper, it will work for me in that if I'm too big with this, rather than sand it all down, I can just move the scuttle back a matter of 5 or 10 millimeters, and it will get me that, it'll become narrower in relation to the frames. So that will work well on that. What is comforting to know is that having set that out on that side, which is an ellipse, and I spent quite a lot of time working on that, what it means is now when I come back at it with the semicircle template, I'm pretty much there with this side of it, so it's all working, it's come out right, if you like, in the end, because obviously this is not even anywhere close to a semicircle. A semicircle would be back here and it would be higher here than that is there, so that's all worked out quite well. A little bit of hand finishing to do later on, and then I can come back and cut the middle out again. That will be something which we'll do later once we get the side parts done, but that's as far as I can carry it until I get something to make a body out of. But it's another sort of solid piece for the body that by the time I finish cutting chunks out of it doesn't weigh too much and should be pretty strong. One of the things that's proving its worth time and time again is these drawings, because it means without having to worry about modelling it on top of a chassis or anything like that, I can quickly check that that is just about right for position and size on the original drawing, as is the diameter of it in the scuttle position there. You can just double check and double check and double check, and again the side elevation, again it's giving me where I need to be on that. So it's useful to have these. They're getting very worn out now, but they are proving invaluable to have that elevation plan and side view of the car. And this is where it starts to get really brain hurty. The side vertical members where the bonnet is will need to have a 5 degree slope taken off that outside edge of the framing timber. That's fairly straightforward. The piece that's at the bottom, which is will go on the frame rail of the chassis, that will need a 5 degree slope on it that way, because it's following the line of the chassis, which means that the diagonal piece or the sloping piece that goes in there is going to need a 19 degrees there. It will need 5 degrees taking off it that way, and it will need 19 degrees on it there, because that actually will come out slightly because it's all widening. So there's quite a few weird angles there. As I say, that end piece there where you've got 5 degrees off one face, 19 off the other, and a slope on it outwards which is indeterminate at the moment. I think I'm going to have to do that by trial and error to match up with the 5 degree that's been on that one. So I think we'll start from the straightforward ones. We'll get those joints done, which are straight, but we're just with the 5° off one face, and then we can move on. As I say, next will be the 5° on that one, and then we'll make that last piece fit the gap. Okay, you have to excuse storm whatever it is this week coming through at the moment in the background, but what I've done at the moment now, I've got the scuttle rails just pegged together with some loose dowels, and I can now get on to the complications of this last piece, which will fit into there and do the sloping piece. As I say, that's going to be quite awkward in that it's sloping out that way and it's 19° cut on the bottom and so on. So I'm just going to try and get one end virtually sorted in the right place and then work backwards to the other one. So I've now just finished cutting and gluing that up. That is now ready to fit to the cart. It's slightly too narrow, and that's deliberate because there are now going to be a couple of layers, well at least one anyway, of dye bond on the whole thing. So the next thing I suppose I've got to do is to, apart from a little bit of sanding to finish it, I've got to literally roll it around on a piece of dye bond so that I get the correct shape, because it's a single piece all the way across there. I haven't decided yet how I cut the end pieces there. We'll see. I'm not sure whether I'll just carry them on a bit or cut them, but we can decide upon that later. As I say, a little bit of trimming up to do, but I'm pretty happy with that now. It's really solid, it's really strong, so it should provide a good enough base to hold the bodywork, and from this virtually everything else sort of comes off it, if you like. The bonnet rests on the front part, the lower parts below the exhaust pipe on the one side, and just on the underneath the bonnet goes forward on a pair of frames I'll have to make up to the front bulkhead. And then there is a piece that will come from here that comes up at a higher angle, that goes up more like that, which is the cowl in which the instrument cluster, and that comes down and the steering wheel, and then that comes down at the side and becomes the body panels. But there's a joint about there on either side which I will have to house out into the timber panels there to make enough room to drop an aluminium or steel plate in that's wide enough to take the top part of the cowl bolted through and the bottom part of the sides bolted through, and that'll just be fixed in, housed out in there and fixed in. But I think as far as the centre bulkhead is concerned, we've got over all the complicated maths that's driven me a little bit mad. Some of the angles and things here are quite weird, but we now have, I think, flat and vertical sides coming in on a 5° taper forwards and a 5° taper downwards. Okay, so that's got the whole thing sorted. It's nice and solid, very much in the Morgan tradition, only we're using maple instead of ash, purely and simply because I'd got it and because it was not being used. But I'm quite happy with that. As I say, it's pretty strong. Should give me a base to put all the covering on it now, and we can get all that sorted. So I hope it was of interest. Look forward to seeing you next week when we'll be doing something different on the Cyclekart. I'll see you then. Bye.